All right, guys. We are live. It's Monday, the 6th of May. And I got a great show for you. We got Winona Judd with the national anthem. Apparently it's epic. Let's find out.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last
Okay, yes, it's actually very good.
whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the
Okay, this is one of those times when the hype is indeed real.
we're so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night
Hey, do believe the hype, ladies
that
and
our
gentlemen.
flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Oh, yeah. Wow, that's badass. I'll be damned. I will be damned. Wow, that was Winona Judd at the Kentucky Derby. Ah, fucking nailed it. Okay, what's going on, you guys? Yeah. Well, yeah, the hype was. Some of you guys don't like it. I don't know. I say give it up for Winona Judd. You gotta make it your own, right? I don't know. I dig it. All right. Let's see here. Okay, what's up? We got a great crowd starting to form out here. Who do we have? We have Anonymous. We have Tam Tam. We have Johnny Arcade. He's just being a dick. Well, hey, we're all are equal shares of dicks, right? I guess at some times. We got Frank up in here. Frank Totten. Yeah. We got Frank Totten, you know. I don't know. I thought she nailed it. What do I know? I'm just a cartoon, guys. All right. Yeah, so we have a great show for you, kind of, for the most part. We're gonna, besides the actual show part, we're going to have some fun. As you can see, we are awaiting the press secretary. She is on black time, and we deeply cherish, you know, her gaslighting and her misdirection and her reading verbatim from her helping friendly book. That's right. You don't get it or you do. Either you get it or you don't get it. Okay? Now, the lizards have died, everyone. Yeah. Yeah. That's what a great metaphor, huh? Even with the helping friendly book, all the lizards die. Isn't that just the way it goes, guys? I tell you. And if anybody's gonna game henge up this country, it's gonna be Wilson. from the Ministry of Truth. No, I'm just now I'm just going off. All right, now let's talk about what we have to talk about, right? And it looks like Israel is invading Rafah. America fears the invasion, apparently. The Biden administration is concerned that Hamas's deadly rocket attack that conveniently struck their main entry port for aid, medicine, weapons, yeah, it's amazing how Hamas, they're just so dumb. They struck their only means of access to the outside world. I'll tell you, the Israelis couldn't have planned a better attack. We got to protect the lot lizards. Now, let's see here. The Biden administration, is concerned that Hamas's deadly rocket attack over the weekend has led Israel to fast-track its timeline for a military operation in Rafah. According to a senior administration official, violence in southern Gaza City spiked on Sunday after Hamas militants fired rockets from near the Rafah crossing, killing 4 Israeli soldiers. Israeli fighter jets struck targets in Rafah overnight, including a humanitarian aid location. The Israeli Defense Forces said on Sunday was used as a staging ground for rocket attacks. Yeah, well, that's convenient, I'll tell you. It's almost like a meme at this point. I would not believe that this is true, except for Hamas keeps taking credit for it. So, I don't know what's worse. I don't know what's worse. Is that A, they expect us to believe this shit, or B, that Hamas is actually taking credit for it. You couldn't make this shit up, but somehow it's true. Somehow it's true. Or at least mostly true, or partly true, or something, because yesterday we learned, shockingly I might add, Hamas is taking credit for this. So, I don't know. Right? My spidey sense is tingling, right? But yet it's also being quenched by reality, right? I don't know. I just don't know. Now, on Monday, the IDF ordered civilians in a limited section of the city to evacuate to a humanitarian area in Al-Mawasi, an area along the Mediterranean. All right? So, yeah. I do have to point out that the Israelis evacuate the civilians before they bomb it. I have to stress here that Hamas does not do the same thing before they try and murder Jews. I'm just saying. Just saying. It's a pretty shitty genocide that the Jews are waging. Just saying. Okay. It's one of the worst genocides I've ever seen. Okay, now, the moves combined with snags in ceasefire negotiations over the weekend reflect that Israel may be accelerating its plans to invade Rafah, U.S. officials said. Though they stressed that the operation is limited in scope for now and doesn't necessarily represent the initial phase of an all-out invasion. So, they're invading, but they're not invading. I don't fucking know. I don't know. Hey, we got Anthony and Felix. What's going on, Salty Alaskan? Yeah, what's going on, guys? So I guess as far as the Israeli war is concerned, you're pretty much encouraged to believe whatever the fuck you want, right? They're invading, they're not invading, they're fucking Israel's hitting itself, but Hamas is taking credit. I don't fucking know. Nothing makes sense. Oh my God! Speaking of things not making sense, look who's on time. I mean, on time for a black person. Right. She actually is early. If she gets out here within the next 2 minutes, she's early. We have Jackie Heinrich from Fox News today in the front. She's not as funny as Ducey, but she's far easier on the eyes, even though her makeup kind of sucks. You would think Fox News would be better at doing her makeup. Maybe it's the lighting in there, right? Her makeup's probably good in in proper lighting, but they just probably don't have the lighting, right? Makeup is heavily dependent on lighting. So maybe it looks better on their cameras. I don't know. Okay, we have Karine all dressed in white.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Wow. Besides those stupid fucking shoulder pads, what the fuck? It looks good on her. I think that you should always try to compliment yourself. And that's a high contrast.
So you just heard from my colleague over at the State Department who has confirmed that Hamas sent a response. I'm going to turn things over very quickly to my colleague, Admiral John Kirby, who will share more updates in the region.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Concerned about Rafah.
As Karine noted, there has been a response from Hamas to the hostage deal. We're currently reviewing that response, and we're discussing it with our partners. Director Burns, as you know, is there, and he's working this in real time on the ground. I won't be able to comment any further on this until we know where things stand. I hope you can understand that. I know everybody's
I miss the days when we parroted Israel, just saying.
Curious about what's in this response, what the Israeli reaction to it is. I'm just not going to get ahead of the process. We want to get these hostages out. We want to get a ceasefire in place for 6 weeks.
Okay, from what I read, there are about 20 hostages still alive, and they are being used as a human shield for the Hamas guy in charge of their militants, right? I don't know how true that is. That's just the story that has been put out, is that there are about 20 hostages left, and they're all being used as human shields. Granted, this comes from Israel, okay? You got to take it like that. So.
We want to increase humanitarian assistance, and the last thing that I want to do is say anything at this podium that's going to put that process at risk. Regardless, as we've said before, we still believe that reaching an agreement is the absolute best outcome, not only for the hostages, but for the Palestinian people. And we're not going to stop working to that outcome. Now, as you know, the President talked with Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning. The call lasted about 30 minutes and was constructive. The President reaffirmed his message on Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. The two leaders discussed the shared commitment of Israel and the United States to remember the 6 million Jews who were systematically targeted and slaughtered in the Holocaust.
Yeah, we all remember
one of the darkest chapters in human history, and to forcefully act against anti-Semitism and all forms of hate-fueled violence. Now, of course, the two leaders spoke about our efforts to secure the hostage deal, including through these ongoing talks today. During the call, at the President's urging, Prime Minister Netanyahu agreed to ensure that the Kerem Shalom crossing is back open for humanitarian assistance for those in need. And I also want to take a moment to address the latest reports now out of Rafah, which was also a topic of discussion on the call. I'll reiterate again that we cannot and we will not speak for IDF operations, but we've made clear our views about operations in Rafah that could potentially put more than 1 million innocent people at greater risk. During his call with Prime Minister Netanyahu, the President again made this clear. He also made clear that we continue to believe that the hostage deal is the best way to avoid that.
I imagine that it was a very difficult conversation to transcript, listening to two doddering old men trying to discuss global affairs.
That sort of an outcome while securing the release of those hostages. And as I said, those conversations continue. Just one more thing. President Biden hosted His Majesty King Abdullah II of Jordan for lunch at the White House. That probably wrapped up here just recently. They discussed the strong partnership between the United States and Jordan. They also spoke about the situation in Gaza, of course, including efforts to secure the hostage deal and to get more humanitarian assistance into the civilians of Gaza. We're going to have a more detailed readout of that conversation here very, very soon. Just don't have it right now, but you'll be seeing it shortly.
As far as you can tell, which proposal did Hamas accept?
I'm not going to get into that, Steve.
And is the issue over how long a ceasefire would last?
Again, you're asking me for the parameters around the response and the deal itself, and I'm just not going to do that.
Lastly, Israel has called on people in Rafah to evacuate. Does that presage a full-scale assault? What are we seeing?
As I said in my opening statement, I'm not going to speak for IDF operations or their military intentions and plans. They should be the ones to answer those kinds of questions. What I can only reiterate is that
we're good, guys.
We've been consistent, and the president was consistent again this morning, that we don't support ground operations in Rafah that would put the majority or even any of the civilians there at any greater risk. We want to see their safety and security allowed for and factored in.
Noting your caveats at the top, are you able to say whether Hamas was agreeing to something that had been discussed over the last several days?
Again, without getting into the details of it, and Director Burns is still talking to partners about this, there have been ongoing negotiations and talks here for weeks. And the director traveled recently to see if we can't bring this thing home. And again, without speaking about the details of the response by Hamas, I think it's safe to conclude that that response came as a result or at the end of these continued discussions that Director Burns was part of.
And when do you think you'll have a better sense of what is happening? When will you get a readout from Director Burns? Later today, early tomorrow?
I don't know. The president has been briefed on.
So it appears that Hamas has accepted some kind of peace deal.
Where the process is.
I'm digging.
What you're asking me is like, when are we going to get like a final,
What is the answer?
final table slap here. There's a process that has been worked in the past and will be worked this time. You get a response by Hamas. We're going to have to evaluate that. We're going to see what's in it. Certainly, the Israelis must have a chance to look at this and to evaluate it. And Director Burns, as we speak, literally as.
Hold on. Hamas says it accepted a ceasefire proposal from Egypt and Qatar. Hold on. It's not what we think, guys. Hamas says it accepted ceasefire proposal from Egypt and Qatar. Hamas on Monday said that it accepted a Gaza ceasefire proposal from Egypt and Qatar, but details were not immediately available, and it was not clear whether Israel had agreed to the terms. Right? So it's just an empty ceasefire proposal from countries that won't accept the Palestinians, remember, A, and B, are not the ones that are pointing bombs at them right now. So, I don't know what to think about that. It doesn't sound very promising to me. Right? If I had to, it doesn't sound legitimate is more what I would say. Okay? Let's go.
As you and I are talking, are having these conversations with partners in the region.
Hey, what's up, Freddie?
It would be great. I'm sure we'd all like to have an answer as soon as possible, but I just don't want to get ahead of that process.
And a quick follow-up on the readout. When do you expect the Kerem Shalom crossing to reopen, or is it already reopened?
It should be open very, very soon. Prime Minister Netanyahu committed to opening it on the call this morning. So at 2:30, is it open? I don't know. But he assured the president that it would be reopened. It had been closed for several days.
And one more. Cindy McCain, the executive director of the World Food
Okay,
Program, said over the weekend that northern Gaza is in a, quote, full-fledged famine. Is that the assessment of the...
Good quote from Frank here. He says, the bifacial policy stance from the White House speaks to a palace coup in Washington. And what I think is what he's trying to say is that because they are speaking out of both sides of their mouth, right? They're 1 minute supporting Israel, the next minute supporting Hamas, right? What he's saying is that is evidence of a split in loyalties inside of the White House, right? And I think that that's a very astute observation. So you get a point, Frank. Yeah, when you understand how far all this Israel stuff goes, and like who's really at fault here, you know, I only see. I mean, maybe I am biased. Okay, I'm not gonna say I'm not biased, right? But even if I didn't have an implicit bias, right, it would be hard. Knowing everything that I know, it would be hard for me to be on the side of Hamas, right? Right? I just couldn't do it. Jews versus libtards. Winner takes the office. Well, I guess that's actually true because it looks like Donald Trump is going to win the presidency, and Trump is not shy about his ties to Israel, right? Like Trump makes no he makes no attempt to hide his unwavering support for Israel, right? So, looks like Jews win.
U.S. government as well.
The UN has not declared a famine in Gaza writ large, but I don't want to understate the degree of need here and the dire situation that so many people in Gaza are in, particularly with respect to food and water. So it is not a great situation, clearly, and that's why, again, we're working so hard to get this deal in place so we can keep that humanitarian assistance up at a higher level.
I understand you don't want to get into the specifics here, but is it your understanding that this is Hamas's final offer? I mean, is there still room to negotiate here?
I think it's going to depend on our evaluation and the Israelis' evaluation of the response and where we go from here.
And as Steve mentioned, the Israelis are already warning people to evacuate Gaza. If they do go through with this operation, is the U.S. willing to consider putting limits or conditions on aid to Israel?
I won't get ahead of where we are right now, Mary, in the process here. And I'm certainly not going to speak to hypothetical operations that haven't happened yet. So I think we just have to,
as we just read,
see what transpires.
The Gaza
the president
ceasefire
was
is unlikely to go
very
through,
direct
being that
and consistently
not,
so this morning that we don't want to see major ground
like
operations.
It has nothing,
in Rafah.
like
That
Israel
puts
has
people
nothing
at
to
great
do with the
risk.
ceasefire.
But, a month ago,
The deal was made in Egypt between Egypt, Qatar, and Hamas, right? Qatar, as I like to call them. So I don't see this being a legitimate ceasefire.
the administration did make clear that the U.S. would change its approach, right, if Israel didn't take significant steps to address the humanitarian crisis. Does that still hold? Is it possible that the U.S. could change course if the humanitarian process isn't improved?
Of course.
And
We always
presumably
we always have the right to
It's
adjust our
wait.
policies as
Now,
appropriate.
Our commitment to Israel's right to defend itself is ironclad, but it's possible we could change course. Right? Talk about talking out of both sides of your mouth.
And that has not changed, no.
And presumably an operation in Rafah would jeopardize steps to address the humanitarian
All I can say is we've been very direct and very consistent in our views of concerns about operations in Rafah.
Does the U.S. currently have any sense of whether Israel is inclined or not inclined to accept this deal?
I won't speak for the Israelis.
Now we are not building. Okay, so the port that we were building into Gaza, yeah, it turns out they keep trying to blow us up. So, what do you know, guys? What do you know? What do you know? You try to build a humanitarian port into Gaza, and they try to blow it up. So that got scrapped, and now we're going to build a port into Israel instead.
When the president and the prime minister spoke earlier today, was this specific framework discussed, and did the president encourage, put pressure on the prime minister to accept this framework?
You're talking about what Hamas says they responded to. So just so you have the TikTok here, when they were talking this morning, we did not have news that Hamas had responded. So that news broke after the call. That said, as I mentioned in my opening statement, of course they talked about the hostage deal and the importance of getting it secured.
So you're saying when the two leaders spoke, Hamas had not yet
It would be
accepted
wrong.
this framework,
Yeah.
so the president would not have specifically asked the prime minister to
Correct.
potentially
It would be
accept
wrong
this
for you to conclude that the call this morning was about having the Israelis accept the Hamas response. The Hamas response hadn't happened yet.
Did he broadly encourage the prime minister to get yes to some sort of deal?
As he has consistently with Prime Minister Netanyahu, urged that we get this deal secured. But it wasn't a pressure call. It wasn't about twisting his arm
putting
towards
pressure on him.
a
We
certain
just
set of
called him and
parameters.
told him that he better
Director
take the
Burns is
deal.
in the region having these conversations with the Israelis, the Qataris, the Egyptians, as we speak.
Yeah. Notice how he didn't say that they were negotiating with the Israelis, right? That's the problem here.
And that's the
U.S. is pressuring Israel to accept a peace deal negotiated by its enemies, like they lost the war or something, right? Okay.
forum for working out the parameters of it. But the president clearly talked to the prime minister about the importance of getting a deal done. Yeah.
And John, what is the president's position on a limited operation into Rafah?
I don't think I can answer it any differently than I did with Mary. We've been very clear that we don't support a major ground operation in Rafah. Operations in general that put at greater risk the more than 1 million people that are sheltering there. And the question right now is a hypothetical. I mean, we're aware they dropped leaflets.
It's a
We're aware
hypothetical
that
now, so I'm not going to
that
answer
they're,
what we would do when
wanting people to evacuate. I let them speak to their
Because
operations.
it's just a
and to their
hypothetical as we
intents.
speak. They haven't done it
Intentions.
yet.
Nothing's changed about where we are with respect to operations in Rafah that could put those people at greater risk.
Right, but you know that they are asking people in the area to evacuate, and the possibility of a limited Rafah operation is on the table. So I'm asking, does the president believe that Israel can execute a limited operation into Rafah while adequately protecting the lives of civilians there?
The president doesn't want to see operations in Rafah that put at greater risk.
He just doesn't want to see
the
them.
More than 1 million people that are seeking refuge there.
So you wouldn't support a
So-
limited operation into Rafah?
So it's going to look. So Biden's just setting himself up for a spanking on the world stage because he's okay. So Biden's position is Israel better is don't, right? Is don't. That's Biden's position is don't. Okay. So when Israel does, Biden looks like the feeble old bitch on the world stage again. Like what else is new?
I think I've answered the question.
Francesca.
Biden's response is one word. Don't. Just don't. Just don't. Don't.
Picking up on the timeline, so
You know how
prior
well that
to
works.
Hamas
That worked,
saying that they accepted this
in
proposal,
Russia.
what, as you understood them
worked
to be,
for
were the
Iran.
sticking
I mean,
points
Biden,
for either
that's a
Hamas or the
powerful word.
Israelis in
It
the
stopped the
deal that had
Taliban
been on
from
the
seizing
table?
control of Afghanistan. Oh wait, none of those things
Did it
actually
involve
happened.
Rafah in
All
any way?
of those people
I'm not
were
going to talk about the
intimidated.
parameters of the proposal that was worked before this Hamas response, and I'm certainly not going to talk about the response right now. I mean, I do understand the curiosity, and you guys are all asking exactly the right questions, all very fair. But I really do hope you understand that the last thing I would ever want to do from this podium is say something that could put this very sensitive process at greater risk. We are at a critical stage right now. We got a response from Hamas. Now Director Burns is working through that, trying to assess it, working with the Israelis. I mean, my goodness, folks, I don't know that it gets any more sensitive than right now. And the worst thing that we can do is start speculating.
No, Biden is withholding aid to Israel, actually. Yeah, he's, Biden is doing the thing that they impeached Trump for. Withholding congressionally approved aid from Israel right now. He said he's not going to send the money there. In fact, I think there's some talk about him just sending it to Ukraine anyway.
speculating about what's in it.
And one more thing on Rafah. What was your understanding why the Israelis were only evacuating part of Rafah at this time?
You'd have to talk to the Israelis.
Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks, Karine. Thanks, Admiral. You've previously said several times that the ball is in the court of Hamas at previous stages of negotiations. Would it be fair to say now that the ball is in Israel's court?
It's going to depend on what the response actually says and the conversations that we have with the Israelis about where we go from here.
And just one other thing, if I can ask, I mean, do you have any sense that Israel is currently using this threat or the start of an operation in Rafah
That
as
will
a
turn
means
out to be a
of
BS
putting pressure
story?
on Hamas at this stage of the
Again, you
negotiation?
have to talk to the Israelis about their intentions.
You said that you did not know the news during the call,
The Biden
but were you
administration calls
surprised
for
by,
citizens
was the White House surprised by Hamas saying that they had reached a deal or agreeing to the agreement?
It wasn't like we had a heads up about it. We knew that, as I said publicly, they had a proposal in front of them, and as was I was just reminded of the fact that I said many times, it was the ball was in Hamas's court. So we certainly knew that they had it before them, and we were
Israel
waiting on
needs to
word.
fire a prosecutor quick.
We had hoped that there would be word very, very soon. We certainly hoped that there could be word today, but did we know the exact moment that Al Jazeera was able to break the news that Hamas had a response? No, we didn't predict that particular moment.
Are you encouraged
There would
that
be some sketchy Israeli
you
oil
are at
company
this
that
sensitive
Hunter
point?
could
You've
work
been
for.
talking about it's a very sensitive point, it's important.
We'll be encouraged when we get a deal in place and we can start seeing hostages get back with their families. That'll be encouraging.
And
Like I
if
said,
can,
there's
what
around
role, if
less
any,
than
do you
2
feel like
dozen
the
hostages
leaflets and
is
the pressure
what
of
Israel said.
evacuation or the announcement of evacuating, do you think that had any role in triggering Hamas to do
I don't think we know that.
John, can you talk a little bit about the timeline as the administration understands it of those evacuations? How much time do people have to leave? Did you guys put any demands on the Israelis in terms of how those evacuations are to take place under the parameters that you guys
Oh,
have
really?
talked about?
We're asking questions of the Israelis about what their intentions
Yeah, that
are
sounds
here
like
and
Hamas.
what the larger purpose of.
Tam Tam's saying everybody on Twitter is talking about Hamas just killed a bunch of Israeli soldiers and then accepted the peace deal from Egypt. Not a peace deal from Israel, guys. A peace deal from Egypt. Now, that sounds like Hamas. That's the Hamas I know, right? Cowards.
Of this evacuation is and sort of where they're wanting to go. I think to answer your question, though, you'd really have to go to the Israelis and to speak to their military operations and plans. I'm not going to get ahead of that. But are we curious about the timing and the intent and where they're going? Yes, absolutely. And the president expressed our curiosity about that on the call today.
But more than curiosity, are you expressing what you want to see happen in terms of those evacuations, how they take place, whether Israel's prepared for people moving around within?
I would just say, again, without, I don't want to get ahead of operations that haven't happened. I don't want to speak for the Israeli military. I can just say that we don't want to see operations in and around Rafah that make it harder for the people that are seeking refuge there and shelter to be safe and secure. And we have made that case privately to the Israelis. The president did it again today with the prime minister directly. We certainly made it publicly. We've been very, very consistent about that.
Thank you, Karine. John, noting everything that you've said about the concerns expressed by the U.S.
I'm
about
still finding
the
just
risk to
the 3
Palestinians
Israeli
in
soldiers
Gaza
killed
with a
yesterday.
full-scale operation. Is the U.S. still aligned with Israel in its intention to eliminate the terrorist threat posed by Hamas?
Of course.
And is there any feeling that Hamas may be trying to trick the public in some way? You heard Israeli officials commenting on this latest proposal as a trick, and there's been a lot of pressure to. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead, sorry. I'm listening.
Well, there's been, pressure on the administration to make sure that the needs of Palestinians are being served and that the U.S. support for Israel isn't, overhanded. And you had the report come out earlier today or maybe yesterday that the U.S. was potentially weighing withholding an arms shipment to Israel.
Oh,
Is
we
there
were just
any
talking about that.
concern that Hamas was trying to capitalize on that public pressure and, play a trick, as Israeli officials put it?
I mean,
oh, well, finally, one person asking a hard question. Good job, Jackie. I don't know how cute she is today because there was no close-up, but good job, Jackie.
I don't think there's any possible way I could answer that question unless I got between the ears of Mr. Sinwar, and that's a place I really don't want to be. I think that is a great question for him. It's
Sinwar
interesting.
is the Hamas guy.
I stand up here and answer questions. Karine does. Matt Miller at the State Department, Pentagon colleagues, the President does. Prime Minister Netanyahu does, and the IDF military spokesman does. You know
Being
who
a
hasn't
Hamas
answered a
prisoner's
single
gotta be held.
question
Yeah, no shit.
about his intentions and what games he might be playing or where he intends to take this? Mr. Sinwar, the head of Hamas. And I think it's high time that he answers some of these questions and he come clean about what his intentions are. I don't know.
The women prisoners had it especially rough. Luckily, they're probably all dead by now. But yeah, it would be terrible to be a woman held captive by Hamas. I'll tell you that.
All I know is we've got a response. Bill Burns is looking at that response.
Why
He's
isn't
talking to the
Kirby
Israelis
selling
about
vacuum
it.
cleaners?
And we'll see where.
That's probably what he did in college. He's good at it too, right? You almost want to fucking believe him, right? He makes good arguments on the surface, right? Like in the here and now without thinking about them, right? If you just listen to what he says and take it as fact, he makes good arguments, right?
Whatever's in this thing, hopefully it can lead to those hostages getting out real soon with their families.
Those hostages, yeah.
Where they need to be. And as each new
How many
day
hostages
passes,
do you think are
their
left,
lives
sir?
get further at risk. So time is really of the essence here.
Noting your answer, is it still a good idea to try to
There she
negotiate
is.
with terrorists then?
It's
Oh, yeah,
it's
Jackie's
not
looking hot.
It's not like we sit down pie in the sky and say, hey, today's a good day, let's negotiate with terrorists. You got to negotiate with who you got to negotiate to get people back with their families. So frankly, if there's a better idea to get those
He thinks
hostages
the
home
hand
with their families,
movements
I
are
think we'd
making
love
up
to
for the
hear 'em.
BS.
I just don't think there's another way to do it. There's no other way to do it, quite frankly. You got to negotiate through Qatar with Hamas to get those folks back with their families. I mean, that's the hard work of diplomacy.
It looks like he didn't use a good tailor either on his suit today, right? You see how it's all like lopsided up at the shoulders? What is it with these people and their lopsided shoulders today?
Sometimes it means you got to sit across the table from some
Yeah,
really bad folks that
suit
you'd rather
wasn't-
not have to
wasn't
talk
tailored
to.
right.
But they got those hostages, and we want them back.
But the U.S. backs Israel's intention to eliminate Hamas.
We, of course, back their right and responsibility to go after the Hamas threat, to eliminate that threat. Now, look, Jackie, I've said many times here, you're not going to eliminate an ideology through military operations. But does Israel have a right and a responsibility
shit like that.
to
Good
eliminate
point.
a threat that they suffered on the 7th of October? 100%, absolutely they do. And we've been nothing but very steadfast on that.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks, John. Speaking about a TikTok, what prompted this morning's call?
I think you've heard me say many times they talk as appropriate. And given where we were in the hostage deal negotiations, given where we were with
no
humanitarian
shit,
assistance
Felix.
and Kerem Shalom being shut down for several days,
Yeah,
certainly
they
given
just
where
didn't-
we
they
were
didn't
with
cut his suit right. Normally he
expectations
looks
in
better
Rafah,
than this.
This made all the sense in the world for today to be the day that the President and Prime Minister Netanyahu speak.
But when exactly was the call set up? Was it this morning? Was it yesterday after the rocket attack that killed the 3 Israelis? Or what?
I would
what's
tell you
the-
the initial planning for the call took place late in the weekend, is about what I'd say.
Late in the
On
weekend.
a different topic, why did the U.S. halt
So after
an
the
ammunition
rocket
shipment
attack.
to Israel last week?
Yeah, look, I've seen the press reporting on this. All I can tell you is that, to Jackie's question, our support for Israel's security remains ironclad, and I'm not going to get into.
But we will take action if they don't meet if they hurt any of the innocent hairs on the innocent jihadis' heads.
The specifics of one shipment over another.
NBC is reporting that it included 2,000-pound bombs that may have been used in Rafah. Did concerns over Rafah
Wow,
and
those
what
are
the
big
Israelis
bombs.
could use this ammunition for, did that play any role in halting that shipment?
Don't have a better answer for you other than the one I just gave you.
I don't have a better answer.
I just
Our
want to go with
commitment
that
to
question
Israel
one
is
more
ironclad.
time. Did the United States put a pause on arms shipment to Israel? Is that reporting correct?
I'm not going to confirm that reporting.
Okay, just on another topic, well, same topic, a different question. Over the weekend, the Queen of Jordan said in an interview that the United States is giving the world mixed messages, and offering both expressions of concern and support for Gaza, in addition to providing arms to Israel. Can you comment at all on this, on her criticism or her critique of the United States position?
I'm not going to. I don't think it'd be appropriate to get into a back and forth here from the podium on this. We have said that two things can be true at once, and they are. Israel has a right and a responsibility to defend itself, and we're going to continue to provide for their security and help them with that. And at the same time, they have a right and an obligation to be careful about civilian casualties and getting more humanitarian assistance in. And that's why we're working so hard on this hostage deal. And that's why the President and the United States continue to lead the world in terms of actually making a difference in that outcome, making life better for the Palestinian people. No other country is doing more than the United States to try to increase that assistance and get this ceasefire in place.
Yeah, no other country is dumb enough to fund both sides of the war out just like out in the open. Like, hey, we got both sides on this. Yeah, this is bad for America, right? No matter what you think about this situation, right? We can all agree that this pussyfooting makes us look bad and makes all of our allies nervous about our commitment to our obligations, right?
The Israelis stopped broadcast of Al Jazeera over the weekend. Can you comment on whether that's an appropriate action for a United States ally?
We don't support that action. As we said very clearly on World Press Freedom Day on Friday, I know Karine talked about this. The work of independent journalism around the world is absolutely vital.
I bet Netanyahu is thinking
it's important to inform citizens and public, but it's also important to help inform the policymaking process. So we don't support that at all.
And did the president bring it up at all in his call?
The focus of the call was on the hostage deal and on Rafah.
I'm going to give it to
But you saw I think I put a statement out this morning on that, so we have officially reacted to it. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Karine.
Netanyahu is definitely regretting using the Mossad to help Biden win, right? He's like, man, we should have backed Trump, right?
Thank you, John. Is the administration planning on discussing the banning of Al Jazeera in Israel with the Israeli government? We just celebrated the freedom of press here in the United States and across the globe, and then this decision came, and it was really a big shock.
As I just said,
It's like Biden can see the writing on the wall that he's out, right? And so, like, instead of, like, you know, having dignity and, like, fucking character and doing everything he can to keep the country on top, he's, like, burning the place down on the way out, right? He's, like, trying to burn the country down for the insurance money, right? Because that's what, you know, he is a Biden, and that's what they do after all, right?
Issue with the government of Israel.
We have raised this issue, and I've made a public statement about it.
And
My daddy said, SpaysE, my daddy said that when you burn the business down, when you before you go bankrupt, you burn it down and cash out the insurance money.
Rafah, has Israel
That's what old Ambrose Finnegan McBiden
or
told me.
provided the administration with a comprehensive plan for Rafah until now?
No.
Good.
I want to take you back to this report on whether shipments were paused.
Okay.
Are the reports wrong?
I'm not going to confirm the press reporting yet. What I've said is our security commitments to Israel are ironclad. The president pushed very hard to get that supplemental funding so that we can continue to help Israel with its security needs. And
you can appreciate the ambiguity makes it sound like it's true.
I can't speak for what you appreciate in my answer. All I can do is tell you that my answer is not going to change.
All right. What is the definition of a assault or attack on Rafah? in the view of the White House that would be seen as impermissible?
There hasn't been an assault or an
Well, there's
attack
reports
in
tonight
terms
that
of a
there are-
ground operation at this time, so let's not get ahead of where we are.
There has been an attack.
President
though. They
did
dropped
express,
bombs.
again,
Didn't we
our
just talk
concerns
about
about
the
operations in
2,000-pound
Rafah
bomb
that would put
like
at
a
risk
minute ago? Weren't we
these
just
people
talking about that?
trying to find shelter there.
Don't you remember yourself earlier today?
I think it would be a futile exercise for me to get up here and give you a laundry list of what would or would not compose some kind of ground operation in Rafah. We have to, well, let me put it another way. The IDF has to speak to what their intentions and their plans are.
But it's still ground operation versus missiles that may be landing over Rafah tonight, which is what we're hearing.
Well, it doesn't matter whether it's missiles or rockets, things that kill innocent people, that's not okay. And again, the president made it clear that we don't want to see operations in Rafah that put at risk those 1.5 million people that are there.
How does the president assess Bill Burns' ongoing attempts to make sure this...
See, like, this isn't a normal war, right? It's not like Hamas has, like, an Air Force base, right, where all their troops are that we can go and hit it, right? Hamas's Air Force base, right, well, they don't have an Air Force, but if they did, it would be inside of a school, right? It would be in a tunnel underneath the fucking refugee camp, right? So, you dig what I'm trying to say here? Hamas doesn't separate its military from the civilian population. It literally uses the military or the civilian population as a shield around its areas of operation, right? So you gotta keep things in context, right, when we're talking about this, I think.
Still comes together.
It's a nice side way of getting at sort of talking to the parameters of the deal. I appreciate that. He's very grateful for...
I was more genuinely interested in what he thinks
Oh,
of
really?
CIA director's work on this, yes.
Excellent. I'm sorry, I impugned your question. Look, I think he's very grateful for the work that Director Burns and the whole team has been doing to try to get us to this point. But it only really matters if we can get the deal in place, and I'm sure Director Burns would agree with me on that. And those hostages can get home.
Hey, what's
but
up, Joker
he's
Fish?
done terrific work thus far, and I know that he wants to see that get this across the finish line just as much as we do.
I think it's a biblical thing.
Admiral, on a different topic.
Is he gonna Sodom and Gomorrah, Gaza and Rafah? Well, let's just say the Jews have won a lot of wars. Well, let's just put it this way, guys. All right? Nobody in history gets to lose as many wars that they started as the Palestinians, okay? The Palestinians have started many wars and have lost that amount of wars, right? And in this time, right, we just still let them go run away and come back and fight like 10 years later, right? Like anyone else in history wouldn't let them lose that many times before there was nothing left to lose, right? I'm just saying, like, this is unprecedented in history.
Reports breaking this last few minutes that a U.S. soldier has been detained in Russia. This apparently happened in the last few days. The reporting is he had been stationed in Korea, traveled to Russia on his own. He's being accused of some sort of theft. Is the administration aware of this report?
Yes.
What can you tell us about what happened?
I can't really say much about it right now, Jonathan. I hope you can understand that. And certainly it's a better question put to our DoD colleagues, but we are aware of this case.
And another matter just related to Russia, there's been threats from Moscow in the last couple of days
We let the
about
French
striking
lose over and
British
over. Yeah,
military
but-
facilities because of and also simulating nuclear.
The French, do they lose in the end, though? No, they didn't lose in the end. In the end, France wins both wars. So, there's that.
Drills as it sharply rises tensions because of weapons manufactured in the UK being used in the conflict. This says it could potentially apply.
Right? Germany surrenders to France at the Treaty of Versailles, right? In World War I, right?
to other allied countries as well, theoretically the United States. Do you have a response to that?
Well,
of course, but it may be other people saving the French, but in the end, the French are victorious. So, I'm just saying that's how it happened.
I'd say number one is it's just reckless and irresponsible.
What's up,
for
Jeffrey?
The leader of a major nuclear-armed power.
In reality, you think about the Germans. The Germans lost 2 wars, and they were decimated, right? Germany loses what? 5 or 6 million people? Like a 20% of their population. All their cities are leveled, right? Their armies are captured and never return home, right? That's what happens when you lose wars, right? I'm just saying.
To be saber-rattling the way that he is with respect to potential use for
That has
nuclear
not
weapons.
happened to the Palestinians.
Obviously, we monitor this and have continued to monitor this very closely. I can tell
like
you
that
we've
has
seen
happened to
nothing,
them.
even despite the reckless rhetoric that would cause us to change our strategic deterrent posture.
Yet they keep starting
and
wars.
look, lastly, if Mr. Putin and Russian officials are worried about their troops in Ukraine getting hit with weapons from other countries, then the easiest thing to do is just take your troops and leave.
There are reports of AFP right now that Israel is committing airstrikes on Rafah, intense airstrikes on Rafah right now. What would that timing mean to the relationship between the President and the Prime Minister?
Well, sir, you know something I don't know. I haven't seen those reports. I can't confirm it. I'll just go back to what I've said, I don't know, half a dozen, if not more times today. We don't support operations in Rafah that put people at greater risk.
Oh, God. Okay, he's not going to answer any
questions. Thank you, Karine, and thank you, John.
He's just not,
I just
guys.
wanted to make it clear that regarding the limit on the refined petroleum provided by Russia to North Korea, the annual refined petroleum limit under UN sanctions against North Korea is 500,000 barrels. But last week you said that the limit was exceeded at 165,000 barrels in March alone. So how many barrels were supplied in January and February?
I will have to take that question and get back to you. I didn't bring the barrel data with me today.
One more quick question again. State Department spokesperson Miller said that the sanctions against this will be imposed this month, and North Korea oil tanker sanctioned by the UN is currently.
What is this woman on about? I can't
Chinese
understand her. I'm sorry.
water.
If that's racist,
So
it's racist.
is China include the sanctions this time, or sanctions against Russia and sanctions against China altogether?
I will admit that I will owe you now yet another answer. I'll get back to you with something more detailed.
We're
I
not
will
here to
only
talk
just say
about what we're going to do
exit
with
my-
China and North Korea. This is an Israel-only conversation, ma'am. And I've already told you all my answers that I have for Israel. So you can keep asking questions, and I'm going to keep not answering them.
So from this question gracefully, that we want everybody to enforce the sanctions that are against North Korea appropriately and consistently. And not everybody does. And North Korea has benefited from sanctions evasions by countries in the region and beyond the region. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. We're going to start wrapping up. Thank you very much, Karine. Thank you very much, John. I had a question on Russia and growing ties between China and Russia.
Okay, good.
Putin is reportedly visiting China this month, and right before this visit, just last week, we learned that Russian police raided the homes of Falun Gong practitioners in Russia. This is a group persecuted in China, and detained several of them. Does the White House have any reaction to this? And I have a follow-up on that.
I haven't seen the reports about the detention of these individuals. If they're true, certainly that would be concerning to us. But I'd probably refer you to the State Department to speak a little bit more about that than I can. Just again, writ large, we have seen China and Russia try to grow closer together. We believe a big reason for that is, frankly, the United States. And and
this is a
putting
worldwide
themselves in
phenomenon.
positions to
Both Russia and China are setting up like intelligence services in order to track down dissidents in foreign countries right now. This is one of the stories that we're going to be covering today after this is over.
to either oppose our foreign policy objectives or to try to be an obstacle to them in many, many different ways. So it's concerning to us. The most specific concern that we have right now is the fact that some Chinese companies are providing microelectronics and components so that Mr. Putin can continue his defense industrial base improvements and developments and put weapons in the field that just kill innocent Ukrainians. And again, we've been we've made those concerns clear directly to our Chinese counterparts and at the UN.
Jerry?
You have the last question. Yeah, I did want to ask, just a clarification first on the King's visit. Is he meeting with any other senior administrative, Defense Department, anybody?
Not that I'm aware of.
So this wasn't like a broader bilateral kind of?
No. The president hosted them for lunch. They've done this before in the past.
And secondly, can you give us
I can't, but look, I can't speak to his whole schedule. He's in town, so I'm not aware of any other meetings, but that doesn't mean that he's got something.
Broader bilateral here at the White House?
No.
And on the pier, the temporary pier, if you could give us an update on that and whether or not...
This is a true story. Russia detained 5 Falun Gong practitioners' homes. They went into their homes and detained 4 individuals for allegedly conducting activities for an undesirable organization, quote. Right? So, yeah. I believe that the Falun Gong are Christians. I'm not 100% sure on that. There's some kind of religious thing. I think they're Christians. They're maybe terrorists. I don't fucking know. I don't know exactly. I feel like they have done things in the past. Okay, yeah, so that's what's going on with that.
Like a ceasefire would need to be in place for that to be fully implemented in operation.
A ceasefire doesn't have to be in place for the pier to operate. Now, obviously, it's a whole heck of a lot easier if there's no fighting going on, but it doesn't have to be. In fact, one of the big issues that we are still working out is what the force protection laydown would look like and how not just the people operating the pier, but the material itself can be safe from any attack. As far as I know, and again, you should go to the Pentagon for more detail, essentially the pier itself has been constructed. It is not in place because last week they had some weather issues in the Eastern Med, so they weren't able to put it in place. You should go to the Pentagon for...
I heard it was artillery shells.
Like where it is right now, as I understand it, is still not being put into place. Then you got to anchor it, and you've got to make sure you build a causeway so you can get to and from it. So there's still a lot of work that has to be done to get it operational, and that would include the force protection laydown. But no, the short answer to your question is you don't have to have a ceasefire in place to use the temporary pier.
Thank you, Admiral.
Thank you, Karine. Appreciate you.
All right, well, that was the end of that. So we can go from some hot bullshit, right, from Kirby there, to some cold, reheated, 3-day-old bullshit from fucking Karine Jean, as I like to call her now. All right, Karen Jean. I hate her haircut. I hate her fucking haircut. She ruined her hair. It used to look cool. Now she looks stupid. Now she looks like one of those dandelions, like Mama had a baby and its head
All right,
popped
I do have
off.
a couple things at the top. We wanted to get to the Admiral
Karine,
at the beginning.
I gotta rebalance your audio here, honey.
So tomorrow, the President will deliver remarks during the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum's annual Days of Remembrance ceremony. You can expect the President to make clear that during these sacred days of remembrance, we honor the memory of the 6 million Jews killed in the Holocaust, and we recommit to heeding the lessons of this dark chapter never again. He will speak to the horrors of October 7th, when Hamas unleashed the deadliest day for Jewish people since the Holocaust, and he will speak to how since October 7th, we've seen an alarming rise in anti-Semitism in the U.S., in our cities, our communities, and on our campuses. The President will touch on how his national strategy to counter
We don't care about your stupid anti-Semitism bill.
is putting the
It's
full
just a
force of the
draconian
federal
way to
government
set
behind
silence
protecting the Jewish
free
community,
speech in this
and that
country.
all
I will-
Americans
I will
must
have
stand
none of it.
united against anti-Semitism. He will reaffirm that we respect and protect the fundamental
Is this
right
in black
to free
and white?
speech, where there is no place on any campus or anywhere for anti-Semitism.
She looks like an Oreo that somebody threw up. No, but I like the color white on her, but this outfit has got to go. Look at these pockets in the front right here. Right? It looks like she just got back from the honky tonk and she was boot scooting boogieing. Right? She was line dancing down at the honky tonk. Karen
There's no
Jean.
place-
Oh, Karen Jean was down line dancing down at the old honky tonk.
for hate speech or threats of violence against the Jewish people. Next today, as part of the Economic Opportunity Tour, Vice President Harris is traveling to Michigan to announce $100 million
I hate the
in
fucking
funding
hair.
and resources for small
She ruined her hair.
medium-sized auto manufacturers and auto workers. The Vice President will also announce actions
black
to
and white
expand
dudes from
workforce
Star Trek.
training and improve job quality in the EV supply chain.
Yeah, she's the retarded one. Instead of it being straight down the middle, it's in her middle third. Yeah. She's the retarded black and white dude from Star Trek.
For decades, trickle-down economics drove manufacturers overseas. Thanks to the Biden-Harris administration's Investing in America agenda, companies are making historic investments in EV battery supply manufacturing. More than 20 auto and battery plants have been announced after no net new plants opened under the previous administration. Historic contracts secured the...
Karine has terrible... I just can't get over her outfit. She looks so dumb. Those pockets in the front look so fucking dumb. She looks like... seriously, she looks like she just got done, like, digging in the garden, right? Like I don't know. It just looks so... 1950s cowboy, right?
By the UAW and the Big Three automakers in Detroit, as well as recent organizing victories like Volkswagen in Chattanooga, Tennessee, ensure that these jobs
She needs a Baltimore
of the future
Ravens
will
helmet on.
provide comparable wages, retirement security, and respect at work. These actions build on the Biden-Harris administration's ongoing work to ensure that the workers and businesses that built the auto industry remain community anchors for generations to come. And finally, I want to acknowledge some important news. While the previous administrations oversaw the largest one-year increase in murders ever recorded under this president's
Fucking hilarious, right? The largest one-year murder rate ever. Yeah, but here's the thing. It was literally the Democrats running around shooting everyone, setting up Chazes and Clats and fucking cop cities. Fucking, like, how many people? And COVID, too, right? People were settling scores during COVID, right? Because they were all locked in their houses and talking on phones and, you know, like, oh my God, right? It was literally the defund the police movement that led to this increase in crime that they started, and they want to blame Donald Trump for the policies that they pushed through when he was president. It's the mental gymnastics required in order to call out the previous administration, right, is phenomenal. I can't do it. I can't even, to be fair to her argument, there's no way. I can't.
leadership, President Biden, violent crime is at a nearly 50-year low, thanks to the extraordinary efforts of law enforcement and community leaders.
Yeah, by changing the reporting structure, right? So that, like, a large portion of the biggest cities in the country have incorrect data that the FBI won't accept because they're using old reporting methods, and the FBI has a new reporting method. And if you don't report it the way that they want it reported, then they don't count it at all. You see how that works?
Americans are safer from violent crime today than they were a year ago. Violent crime declined across every category in the first quarter of 2024, and murders are down 17%. Let me be clear here, this reduction in crime is no accident. President Biden and his administration are taking historic action to make our communities safer.
And don't forget, guys, they passed all kinds of laws that turned violent crimes into misdemeanors that you get OR'd on. So, yeah. So there's that too. There's also that. There's changes in reporting that's leading into incongruencies within the system, and also changing on what is actually a crime. So
our law enforcement officers the tools they need to protect and serve. We are stopping
he solved crime. He solved cancer.
The largest ever federal investment in fighting and preventing crime through the American
Rescue Plan, MAGA Republicans,
which every Republican in Congress voted against. But we can't stop now. Through the Safe America Plan, the president is calling on Congress to invest $37 billion to support law enforcement and crime prevention. Every family.
Yeah. How much you want to bet that $37 billion goes towards, like, one side of it will be AI shit, and the other side of it will be grief counselors to show up instead of police, because police are scary.
Deserves to live in a safe community. With that, Somi.
You had another school, Columbia University, announced this morning that they're canceling commencement ceremonies. I'm wondering if the White House is concerned that the situation on college campuses is not calming
Highway
down.
shootings in Chicago are reported federally.
So I want to quote what
Nice
the
to know
president said from last week, as you laid that out for me. And here's a quote: "Peaceful protest in America, violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is. It's against the law when violence occurs. Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest." And it is unfortunate that a small group of people went too far and cost their classmates this important event. We've talked about it many times from here. When it comes to commencement day, and when it comes to speaking at commencement events, this is something that the president has done for some time now, and he understands that this is a moment of joy, a moment of celebration.
The FBI's new crime
and we feel
report
for them. We feel for
incomplete.
each of the graduates. And we're going to continue to reiterate the president's comments and statements and what we've said from this podium, to call for protests peacefully, and that's what.
And
we're
when
gonna
you read
continue
that,
to
you'll
do, but
find
we do
it's
feel
because
for
of
them. These are graduates, who are
inconsistencies
going
with
to,
reports
miss out on an
and
incredibly
the
important
new
day of
way that they do the
Does the
reporting.
White House anticipate any issues, or how are you preparing?
And so
for
whole
any
entire
potential issues when
cities,
it delivers the remote
some of the
session?
worst cities are left
So look,
out.
I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to
Entirely.
speculate on
They're
what
just
might
not
happen,
counted,
might
period.
not happen. Obviously,
So
when
yeah,
it comes
violent
to
crimes are
any
way
type
down.
when it comes to events and security, that's something that Secret Service obviously is going to deal with and figure that out on their end. But I'm not going to get into speculate from here. I'm just going to reiterate what I just said about how the president truly enjoys doing commencement speeches. He understands how important, not just for the graduate, but the families and the loved ones that are there to celebrate a really, truly important day. And so that's what we're looking forward to. As you know, the president's also going to go to West Point and honor those who serve to protect our country. And we'll continue to do that, obviously. And so that's what he's going to look forward to, really being there for the graduates and lifting them up in this moment.
Thank you, Karine. Congressman Ro Khanna said that the president should and will be out visiting these campuses amid the protests. Is there any plan for him to get out there and talk to students right now? Okay. And then separately, GW's president has called for Metro Police in D.C. to intervene to dismantle what they've deemed an illegal encampment. And D.C. police have so far refused to respond to that call. It's happening in the president's backyard. Is there any reaction from the White House on what should happen?
So that is something that I'm going to leave to the local law enforcement and the universities. That's for them to figure out, for them to work it through. They know what is happening on the ground, and we've always been very clear about that, and we'll continue to be clear about that. We're going to continue to call for peaceful protest. Dissent cannot lead to disorder, and so going to continue to be very, very clear, as the president has been, as I have been, and so many of us here in this administration has been.
Any idea why DC police would not respond to this call?
I would refer you to the DC police. That's something for them to speak to.
And then, just lastly, on these reported plans for the U.S. to bring over Palestinian refugees potentially,
Good question.
is there anything you can tell us about where we are in the works with that? And what I know it would depend on coordination with Egypt, which so far has been resistant to cooperate on this.
Guys, we're bringing Palestinians into the country, right? Through Egypt, who is reluctantly going to let them into their country just long enough to go into America, even though the insane amount of risk it poses to Egypt. But we should be fine, guys. Everything should be fine here. I can't foresee any possible bad outcomes of just letting in, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of these people.
What can you tell us about those plans?
I don't have anything further to announce. I know I was asked this question a couple times last week, just don't have anything else to share.
The speech tomorrow, is it a broad brush speech, or will he get into some of the specifics of the Gaza conflict?
I'm not going to get ahead of the president too much. Obviously, it is a day of remembrance. You know the term. We, as I just stated at the top, never forget or never again. And so certainly the president will talk about that day and how horrific it was for the Jewish Americans, Jewish community. I just don't want to get too far ahead, but obviously it's an important day for not just Jewish Americans, but Americans more broadly.
Thanks, Karine. Given the key role that Jordan has played over the last several months in the Middle East, especially on humanitarian aid, and the day's developments, there was obviously a lot of news value to the King's visit.
Never again, unless it's Hamas, right? Then from the river to the sea. You know what I mean?
Today, why didn't we see the president and the king together for a photo op? Why was that close press?
So look, we try to do everything that we can, obviously, to give you all as much access, give the press as much access. It is sometimes
the president. We get so much access to the president.
They have their own requests, and we try to certainly accommodate their request as well.
It's other people's faults, guys.
We're
not hiding the president from you. We're just being respectful
to make sure
to our
that
guests.
there is press access. In this particular instance, it was a private lunch, and we tried to also accommodate the visitors that come here as well.
The king did not want to do anything on camera.
I would leave it up to the king and his team to speak to that, but again, we try to also accommodate the visiting country as well.
And if there's any news from the Israeli side on this, where things stand, should we expect to hear from the president today or this evening on this?
I don't have anything of note or any changes to the president's schedule at this time. Obviously, if there are any changes, you all will be one of the first, if not the first, to know. I just don't have anything at this time. The president was going to speak tomorrow, so stay tuned. Okay, go ahead, Annie.
Thank you. I just wanted to go again at the speech the president is giving tomorrow. I mean, just given the context in which he's giving it, where there's 34,000 people have died in Gaza. He's going to be talking about never again and a genocide, and he's protested almost everywhere he goes. With that moniker.
Oh yeah, Israel's doing a genocide, guys. Yeah. They have them all trapped like rats, and they killed 34,000 of them. That's a pretty shitty genocide, if you ask me.
Of Genocide Joe, and it's and
Joe Biden is Genocide Joe now.
I'm just wondering, how is he going to sort of thread the needle of addressing?
This fucking reporter is the dumbest person I've ever heard. Listen to how dumb her question is.
With that moniker of Genocide Joe, and it's I'm just wondering, how is he going to sort of thread the needle of address?
What the fuck? Does this person have Tourette's? Is it their first time ever talking to somebody? Like, Jesus Christ, don't you have that shit written down in front of you, you dumb bitch? Like, what the fuck? God, this is like listening to Joe Biden talk.
Addressing
Or Elon Musk.
a genocide that happened quite a while ago, while there are some people who are saying that there's one happening right now that he bears some responsibility for. And I understand that that's not the view of the administration, but it's still a very tricky line to walk. And I'm just wondering if you can share any sort of thought as to whether he may be trying to send a subtle message with this speech at all, or if...
What the fuck is your question? Like, you're not asking a question, you're making a statement, right? You're saying all these things, right? And then you still haven't, like, you're talking, like, all, like, metaphorically and, like, all, like, you're not saying anything, right?
If there's any sort of...
You're saying things, but you're not asking a question. Maybe this is the question. Let's back up a little bit.
To walk. And I'm just wondering if you can share any sort of thought as to whether he may be trying to send a subtle message with this speech at all, or if there's any sort of nod to the broader context in which the speech is being...
Okay. Is Joe Biden's Holocaust speech gonna have double entendres that reference Gaza, right? Is he gonna be up there like, oh, genocide, look at what's going on in Gaza. I mean, we got to send the president of Mexico in there to fix things. My uncle was eaten by cannibals. I know all about atrocities.
So I'm going to let the president speak for himself. I gave a broad stroke of the day and how important it's going to be for the
sign
president
language
to speak,
lady was
on
lost.
This, day of remembrance, the ceremony. So just going to be really mindful there. On your broader question, look, the president understands that this is an incredibly painful time. And we have said that over and over again, and we understand that. And he also respects the right of all Americans to peacefully protest. And also with the understanding and the knowledge of having those conversations, those sometimes really tough conversations with community leaders. And we have done that on the White House. You've heard from senior White House officials, or you've heard us talk about senior White House officials going across the country, having those conversations with Muslim leaders, Arab leaders, Palestinian leaders, in talking through this painful moment.
Here, let me give you a preview of Joe Biden's speech, guys, okay? Here's what we can expect from Joe Biden's Holocaust speech. My uncle, no one's more Jewish than Joe Biden. When my uncle Juicy freed Palestine from the Turkish army back in 1907, he gave it to the Jews. Now, maybe I shouldn't do it. Repeat the line. Well, when I was a little boy, my dad was dropping me off from school, and I saw two Jewish fellers with funny hats, and I said, "Dad, why do they wear those funny hats like that?" And my dad just said, "They just do, son. They just do." And ever since that day, I just realized it's just the way that it is, right? That will be the speech that Joe Biden gives, right?
And I would also say that this is why this hostage deal is so important. This is why we continue to work around the clock. This is why Director Burns is there, continuing to meet with...
Get back in.
The president will speak for himself tomorrow, so I would say tune in.
The president will speak for himself. That's what we're all afraid of, miss.
We understand how painful this is for many, many communities across this country. Thanks.
Have you had input from any of those communities that you mentioned, like as he's been sort of wrestling with
Okay, there's the dumb bitch herself.
working on it? Have any of those communities had any input into what you should say or what to...
I can't speak to that question about input from...
Look, she looks about as ugly as she is dumb. My uncle Shlomo Bidenstein defeated Hitler by building the Underground Railroad. That's a fact, Jack. Oh, my God. Newsmax is reporting no ceasefire. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I expected. I mean, is it really a ceasefire deal if it's between Israel or between Gaza, Egypt, and Qatar? Is that like really a deal with Israel? No, it's not, guys. And I know that we want this war to be over, but not this way. Not this way. Okay? All right, we got news to go over, guys. Biden administration pauses one ammunition shipment to Israel. Oh, we already kind of read this. There's no change in their policy toward Israel, and last month Biden signed a foreign aid bill that included $26 billion for the Israel-Hamas conflict, including $15 billion in Israeli military aid and $9 billion in Gaza, $2.4 billion for regional U.S. military operations. So that's for the bridge that we're building into Gaza. Like a bridge over troubled waters, we will sell bullets. We got a bridge into bullets. But U.S. officials remain concerned about a potential Israeli operation. Over the weekend, Israel and Hamas have remained locked in a back and forth over who to blame for stalled ceasefire talks. CIA Director Bill Burns, who had been in Cairo for the ceasefire negotiation over the weekend, also went to Doha to meet with Qatar. Mohammed bin, lots of letters. We're just going to call him Burka. Lots of names. He's got a lot of names, and they are all full of consonants. So let's just move on. We will remain in Doha on Monday, despite previous plans to go to Israel, a source familiar with the meetings told CNN. Burns has acted as a key interlocutor for the United States in the multi-party talks between Israel, Hamas, Egypt, and Qatar. What do Egypt and Qatar have to even do with this, right? I don't know. If someone can tell me. Yeah, so Israel wants at least 33 hostages, but I've seen that there's only maybe 20 to 24 left, right? And they're being used by Hamas as human shields, like in the tunnels underground. So that's what I heard. How true that is, that's on you, okay? Okay, so Hamas accepted the ceasefire deal. We read that too. Like I said, an Israeli official told Reuters the deal approved by Hamas appeared to be a softened version of an Egyptian proposal that included far-reaching conclusions that Israel could not accept. So, yeah, the deal was never going to go through, apparently. Isn't Qatar where the Palestinian oligarchs are hiding out? Yes. From what I read earlier today, hold on, let's see if we can find it. Hold on. No, this is it. Okay, here we go. This is what they're reporting, okay? Hamas kingpin holed up deep below Gaza, surrounded by hostages, used as human shields. The terrorist mastermind behind Hamas's massacre of nearly 1,200 people, including over 30 Americans, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here we are. My sources tell me that Sinwar, who is the #1 leader in Gaza of the Hamas organization, has 15 to 20 hostages, right? Protecting him and his family, Keane said. Major Jack Keane. So he's a major general, I think. He's a general, some kind of general, anyway. Or was a general, or whatever. That's why they have these hostages, to guarantee their survival. Israel is absolutely right in putting military pressure on them to force the release of the hostages. There's a $400,000 bounty on Sinwar. The citizenships of the hostages being used by Sinwar in violation of is unclear. It's unclear whose hostages these are. Are they American hostages? Are they Israelis? We don't know, guys. We don't know. The West is out of bullets, is what Frank is saying. Yeah, I heard. The rumor is that Biden held up the bullets for them to go to whatchamacallem, Ukraine. So that is the rumor that I hear floating around, is that Ukraine is the reason why Biden held up the Israeli bullets, right? That's what I heard. Yeah. So there's only maybe 15 or 20 hostages alive, according to intelligence, right? And they're in the tunnel being used to shield this Sinwar guy, right? So that's how that goes down, right? Now, here's something a little weird. I don't know, it triggered my spidey sense. Ohio State graduation death. Here's what we know. Ohio State University and its police department released little new information about a death that occurred during Sunday's commencement ceremony after someone fell from Ohio Stadium. Officials with both the university and the Franklin County Coroner's Office have not confirmed whether the death was an accident or a deliberate act. While the shocking death has left more questions than answers, here's what we know as of early Monday. So, okay. What we know is that yesterday afternoon, someone fell off the stands and died, right? From the bell tower. As some of the graduates filtered into the stadium, an individual fell from the stands. They are deceased, OSU spokesman Ben Johnson said. Here's the thing. It's been more than a day, right? And we don't know who this person is, what their ethnicity was, what happened, right? No videos have come out, right? Which is odd that there would be no videos, because everybody would be filming the graduation, all the students entering, right? Like all the parents and shit, right? Well, this is very odd, is what I'm saying. This is a very odd, because normally we would know by now who died, right? Right, and that got my spidey senses tingling, right? Because it's unusual. What we're seeing is unusual, right? So just keep this story in mind as time unfolds, okay? We're watching this story, right? Now, China and Iran are hunting for dissidents in the U.S. This is not just the U.S., it's around the world. Washington, after a student leader of the historic Tiananmen Square protest entered a 2022 congressional race in New York, a Chinese intelligence operative wasted little time enlisting a private investigator to hunt for any mistrust or tax problems that could upend the candidate's bid. In the end, the operative ominously told his contact, violence would be fine too. As an Iranian journalist and activist living in exile in the United States aired criticism of Iran's human rights abuses, Tehran was listening too. Members of an Eastern European organized crime gang scouted her Brooklyn home and plotted to kill her in a murder-for-hire scheme directed from Iran, according to the Justice Department. Okay? Now, so what we're seeing is something from China and Iran, where they are setting up like police agencies in order to actively target what sounds like U.S. citizens inside the United States for talking bad about their former countries. He was drunk. He tripping on shrooms. I don't know. Hey, I don't know I'm just saying. Normally by now we would hear something if it was just some weird accident, okay? Ammo is the new currency. It's like we're in Fallout, guys. Now, real quick, if you guys are into trading cryptos, Ripple it's going to have a SEC decision today that I don't know if it's going to be the end of all this, but if it is the end and Ripple gets what they want, we could see a major price movement on Ripple, because this SEC shit has been holding Ripple back for years. And if it's already started to move upward today, but if this pans out favorably for Ripple, we could see a strong valuation over the next 6 months. And so I don't think if it goes good for Ripple, I mean, we're going to see a significant jump instantly. So, yeah, just remember that. Ripple. XRP. If that's something that you're interested in, this is supposed to go down today. So, like, I would make a move immediately if it was something I was interested in. Okay? All right. Real quick, King Charles was given 2 years to live. So, Charlie is on his way out. Harry is on his way in. And while one monarch's rapidly spreading cancer is terminal, Prince William, I guess it's William. I don't fucking know their names, okay? Prince William shares positive health update about Kate Middleton amid cancer battle. So the princess appears to be recovering. So I don't really care about these people, but it's a story that we started following, and now we have to talk about it. So while one vaccine enthusiast has been given 2 years to live, the other vaccine enthusiast is going to recover. Now, there's a third royal, by the way, the Princess Fergie, and the Duchess, and she also has cancer. So 3 royals all got cancer. No, the Queen died from cancer too. So 4 royals all came down with COVID, or came down with cancer right after the COVID vaccines came out. I don't know if there's anything, I'm just saying. It's funny, and it was like rapidly onset cancer, right? Yeah. Now, finally, no matter how much you charge him, no matter how much they charge him, no matter how much they gag him, no matter how much they attempt to incarcerate him, Donald Trump will not be fucking silenced. Donald Trump will not submit to their tyranny, right? And even on his own dime, he will defy orders. He won't let them gag him. And neither will I, right? That's why we do this, guys, right? Right? Look at what they do to Donald Trump. Right? If we don't stop them, look what they do to me, right? I don't have billions of dollars, right? No one's going to come to my bat for me, right? So, that's why it's important that we do what we can to maximize free speech for the future, guys. And that's why I get out here and I do this, because someone has to say, we have to be free to say what we think, right? And if they can do that to Donald Trump, like Ice Cube said once upon a time, they killed JFK in '63. What the fuck you think they'll do to me? Yeah. Donald Trump is the fucking shit. And we should all be thankful that at this time in history, where great men need to rise up, right? We should be thankful that there is someone willing to do it, right? We should all be thankful that someone hears us, right? Maybe it's not the best guy that we could have asked for, but at least we have someone, right? You don't get what you want, you get what you need, right? Isn't that what they say? You get what you need. And this is what we need. Right? Donald Trump. Ice Cube thinks too highly of himself. Yeah, but it doesn't change the fact that he's a good poet, right? Ice Cube's probably one of the better rappers that there were, right? It's just poetry. Some of his shit is really deep, is all I'm saying. Yeah, speaking of deep, I'd be in deep if you guys didn't support the channel. So if you guys want to support the channel, I dropped links on how you can show your support in a capital way. Support with financial assistance. Okay. Now, yeah, so we're going to be back tomorrow, right? I got a lot of code to write. I keep finding bugs, of course, every time. Every time I change shit, I find bugs. So I had to change some of the core ways that the app operated. And I keep finding bugs now that I have now that I was able to build a network using cloud servers. That I was able to pay for the cloud servers because of y'all. So y'all are awesome. A to the motherfucking K. Yeah. So, yeah, bugs. We always find bugs. But, you should write F Joe Biden on the bathroom wall. I already do. I already do. I wrote it on my hat, even. That I never wear. But if I wore a hat, I would wear it, and it says, fuck Joe Biden on it. Ha! All right. Yeah, well, I guess that's going to be it for the show, guys. I will see you around. And remember, we go live with all kinds of stuff whenever the fuck I say. And you can't stop me. You can't stop me. I will be writing codes. Oh, wait. Wait. As I get closer to releasing my app, I'm thinking about doing a live stream where we make a multiplayer game using the peer-to-peer technology that my app is built around. Right? So, so if you ever wanted to learn how to write code, right? We're going to make a simple little game that's multiplayer, right? That has no server, no central server. So, it will just spawn up a new room, right? Neat, huh? Yeah, so, and it'll be like, I don't know, as far as I know, the first video game ever made using Web3 BitTorrent Swarm stuff that I've been mastering here over the last few years. Okay, so, yes. Yeah, so if you, it'll be, it's more of a flex, right? Because I want a video on the channel, like showing how smart I am. Okay, so yeah. Do I have a regular job? No, I do not. No. No, I just I write code and I make cartoons and I do other things on the side every once in a while. But no, besides that, no. But when I am done with this project, I will be looking for a job, right? In the software engineering world, you can't get a job until you have a project that like works and you've released one, right? So, this project has been consumed 9 years of my life, right? I had to go to college to learn how to do all this, and then I had to like take what I learned in college and apply it to what I want to do, right? And then I had to do it, and then I had to overcome like all these different things that I learned about in college, like feature creep, all these different things, right? So, yeah, so that's what I do, right? Yeah. Yeah, like this app is that I used to make these cartoons I built in college. This is like the first thing I ever built. Innovation takes capital. Well, that's the thing about programming, though, is that it just takes perseverance, right? So one man can do it all. It just takes a very long time. And it takes a lot of inner strength not to give up, right? When the times get hard, right? So, it takes, or a zealot, right? Right? This is something that I believe in very much. This free speech platform that I'm building. And I think it's important for the world, not only for what it is, but also what it represents. Because once I put this out there, right, everyone will see what is possible. And when people see what can be done, I mean, it could be a new age. It could be a new way of doing things for humanity. We can decentralize everything. It doesn't have to be banks. It doesn't have to be social media platforms. You know, like Uber is a good target. Like, that's, I mean, depending on how popular my app becomes, that's a feature I plan on adding into it is ride sharing. So, yeah, that's how that works, right? So, yeah, so like something like this could just completely destroy Uber and all those other corporations like that. Lyft, what's the DoorDash, all those things, right? Because we can just get rid of the corporations in the middle, right? We can get rid of Facebook, the corporation, and now everyone, my app's designed to take down Twitter. So, right? So we don't need Twitter when each one of us are our own Twitter, right? We don't, like, just like Bitcoin, we don't need banks when each one of us are our own bank, right? That we can apply that to so many things, right? We don't need Uber when each one of us are our own rideshare brokers, right? We don't need we don't need congressmen when each one of us is our own representative, right? Right? So there's a lot of implications that this technology represents. So there you guys are. Yes, but innovation does take capital. So think about supporting the channel, guys. Come on. All right. Buy me a beer. All right. But not a beer, a joint, because I don't drink. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.